OK, don't worry, we've got the notes as to why he won't be charged by the FA. We found Mikel Arteta's been an impressive witness. Good start.
Well done.
He was told by certain Arsenal players that Willock, a former Arsenal player, had expressed the view that the ball had gone out of play before he crossed it into the penalty area. So it gave him some motivation as to why he thought maybe the ball was out. Now, the word disgrace, used by Arteta in the interviews, has a very similar spelling and pronunciation to the Spanish desgracia. The Spanish word has connotations of misfortune, tragedy or bad luck, rather than the connotations of the English equivalent, which suggests contempt, dishonour or disrespect. While the English meaning may lead to interpretations of abuse or insult, this was not the intended meaning of the comments. I tell you what, give Arteta's lawyer a watch out for that.
Let me tell you something. I have not seen an authoritative body do such gymnastics in trying to excuse somebody. Now, first of all, I have no problem with Arteta being cleared of any charges. I think if you stick a microphone in a manager's face right after a game, especially it's an emotional time just by its nature, and then given some of the controversial calls, not just the goal, but in the game in general, you're going to get that kind of a response, and you have to be prepared for that kind of response. So I have no problem with Arteta losing his cool and saying what he does. I have a real problem with everything about this, though. I mean, to say it is farcical is maybe underscoring it. I think it's a little dangerous in some respects. And I'll say this. First of all, you say credible witness, but then the other part of the statement is, no, he didn't really answer all the questions. I mean, I don't know how you do both. The other thing is this word desgracia, that apparently has a different connotation in Spanish. In 2020, Edinson Cavani joined Manchester United. 3 months later, sent a tweet to saying a friend of his using a term that was friendly by all accounts in Uruguayan context, that he received a three-game ban for, that he at least had the grace not to appeal. Now the FA Cavani was at United for 3 months. Now you turn around and use a Spanish word and saying, well, there's a different context to it here, so that's why we went a little bit easy on Mikel Arteta. Mikel Arteta, who's been in British football for 20 years. And you use that as the excuse as to why, well, he didn't really get the... I mean, come on. At what point are you going to stop contradicting yourself? Make it make sense.
Have they set a dangerous precedent here, do you think, Nedum?
Not necessarily, because I think this one will kind of be standalone. I think the criticism that they will receive will be just as well, because, you know, I'm with Shaka. All the points he's made about Arteta's been in the British Isles for 20-odd years. I think when you listen to him speak, he's giving really deep metaphors about waves being miles away, coming into shore when he's thinking about players improving their form and so on. So I think he's got a pretty good grasp of the English language. And I think the sort of mental gymnastics that they've put these this panel through or whatever, I think it is crazy. Like, you can say, oh, disgrace in Spanish means one thing. But when you're angrily saying disgrace in England, in English, when you're doing an interview for probably the 1,000th time, I think everyone kind of knows what you mean. But for him to be able to twist that, as Shaka said, credit to the lawyers or credit to whoever thought that could be a way to do it. But it just doesn't feel right to me when, you know, after the proceeding, they say, oh, this person is so impressive. Like, they're there for a reason. They're there because they showed something that wasn't impressive. And I don't want people to be getting fined, to be getting banned and so on and so forth. But the justification for saying that nothing comes of it sounds extremely weak. And even I think Arsenal, the day after Arteta said what he said, they backed him. He talks about the poor standard refereeing and another VAR mistake, being critical to the whole body. Well, except Howard Webb, because he's the guy, Howard Webb. Yeah, we all love Howard Webb, apparently. But it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, as I say, if you're going to let him off, then let him off. But don't try and tell us why he should be let off and give us all these reasons where we think, well, no, that's clearly not the case.
Did they get it right, Stevie?
Absolutely not. No, I to your question to Nedum, I initially thought, well, first of all, he's got some mates on the committee. Two, absolutely they're opening themselves up to the next person saying exactly the same, and then where do they leave themselves? But then having thought about that, the fact that they've come out and justified it the way they have done basically means that this lot think they can kind of do what they want. Depends what way the wind's blowing. Depends what suits the narrative. Depends how they feel. Shall we do it or shall we not? So there's no real consistency. There's never going to be any real consistency. If that group that came to this conclusion stays together for the next whatever, then the next time it comes along, we don't know what the outcome's going to be, because clearly just depends what way the wind's blowing that day, what they decide.
This was an independent commission who came to the decision then not to charge Mikel Arteta, despite what he said after the Newcastle game.